Now you know about me, the D to the A to the Z, SNOOP, DRE, that nigga, I'm Dr. Dre, so we say like every day, now it's the POUND.
Kurupt is the name they call me, I flow and I flow with the Snoop Doggy Dogg, he's the nigga, bigger ways I start flexing.
Tha Dogg Pound featuring Delmar Arnard aka Daz and Rico Brown aka Kurupt, active since 1992. Today's feature was one of those rap duos that were great together, but you knew individually they were so talented that at some point they each had to pursue their own legacies. Daz and Kurupt were like extensions of Snoop Dogg's powerful rise in hip-hop in the 90s, who branched off to create more magic for Death Row Records, going 2 times platinum on their label debut Dogg Food in 1995. With the witty lyricist Kurupt and multi-talented Daz aka Daz Dillinger, they came together to make the perfect young group that could certainly give Death Row a viable future through the 90s and early 2000s. Many call the 90s the golden era of hip-hop a lot because they see it as the equivalent of those youthful years of life where there's not too much care or responsibilities, mixed with a lot of energy and peak competitive natures that made that era's artists each stand out. Many of the legends and icons of today were integral pieces of the 90s rap board, and at the time just starting out on what would become a Hall of Fame journey, only no one knew it at the time. Daz and Kurupt were 2 rappers that represented the West Coast who really had a chance to follow the same path together, only life and apparently the rap game doesn't work that way. How many rap groups are in hip-hop today? How many started out one and are now not together or broke up and reunited, only to break up again when one feels a different way for whatever reason? Rap groups don't survive, and an argument can be made that they conceptually aren't built to survive either. Entertainment is the biggest look-at-me game there is. As an entertainer, you need more eyes on you and what you're doing than the next artist, because eyes lead to popularity, that leads to more money leads to a greater perception of success, therefore more companies want to align with you, and the success, money, and popularity continues to flow. It's hard to capitalize on that when you have to break down whatever comes in with another person or multiple people. I've seen male rap groups break up, brothers that were in rap groups go their separate ways, and the barely existing female rap group split as well over time. That makes it easy to understand what happened to Tha Dogg Pound. But I don't think anyone expected it to happen so soon after releasing just 1 album together on Death Row in their prime and with so much potential. They were supposed to be the next big rap group from the West Coast, but for these reasons, that was a short-lived expectation. What happened? Let's talk about it. Salute to Quentin Bills on IG for this request. It's your boy JC, Stunted Growth Music. Let's get it, man. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment on who I should do next. Tha Dogg Pound is a rap group from the 90s consisting of rappers Kurupt, originally from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, who moved to the LA area at 16 years old, specifically Hawthorne, where he met Snoop Dogg, and the two connected over their similarities and music. Beginning as a solo artist in '91 with the SOS band, he didn't find success until he signed with Death Row in 1992 at 19 years old. Daz Dillinger was born in Long Beach, California. That's the older cousin of Snoop Dogg that also signed with Death Row at 19, who found his way on the label as a rapper and producer under Dr. Dre, also featuring on his '92 Chronic album, both as artist and producer, soon responsible for some of Death Row's greatest works as a producer, like Tupac's All Eyes on Me album singles, 2 of America's Most Wanted featuring Snoop Dogg, I Ain't Mad at Ya, and 3 others. After the Chronic album, the movie Poetic Justice released in 1993, and for the soundtrack they wanted Snoop on there, but because he was gearing to release his Doggy Style album, he passed. Instead, Kurupt and Daz filled in as Tha Dogg Pound, representatives of their street collective. The chemistry between them was instantly evident since the Chronic album and the movie, leading to them both agreeing to move forward together. Stunt number 1, and then Kurupt left. As mentioned, the natural evolution of rap groups according to history is the breakup. At some point it happens, just like reunions that follow thereafter. Working together is and has always been the toughest human struggle because we all have our own feelings, creative aspirations, and individual growth to do in life. Death Row Records were on fire in the early to mid-90s, completely dominating the West Coast sound, having rappers Snoop Dogg and Tupac on there, two of the biggest artists to represent the West Coast of all time. Not to mention super producer Dr. Dre, who not long before left NWA and had much to prove early on in his solo career. With the aggressive Suge Knight running the show, the fiery Tupac, and a young Snoop Dogg, Death Row was set to take over the game. The Dogg Pound was right there to eat off that plate and catch all the fans that wanted more Snoop, Pac, and the Death Row sound. Their debut album released in 1995 around the start of what would become the most detrimental rap beef in history between the East and West Coast, so business-wise it was perfect timing. It instantly became a success after the singles Let's Play House and New York, New York, playing Godzilla as they crushed New York buildings in response to Tupac being shot in '94 and believing Bad Boy Records had something to do with it. While shooting the video, their trailer was also shot up. The album was the soundtrack behind everything going on, as Tupac would be shot again in Vegas, but this time sadly passed away. His death led Kurupt to leave Death Row, as Tupac was his good friend and he felt he died under Suge Knight's watch and inability to protect their young star. He left early 1998, although remaining Dogg Pound. When he left, the group no longer had a major label behind them, and also both now had to spend time on their solo endeavors. Daz would also leave Death Row late '98, and it all killed the momentum of the group. Stunt number 2, Daz and Kurupt beef. After they both had left Death Row, Daz would create the label DPG, and he and Kurupt came together again on an album in 2001. But soon after, rumors of Kurupt going back to Daddy, as Daz described it,
he returns back home to Daddy. So what you got to say about it? Is it true?
Became true when Kurupt actually signed back with Suge Knight and Death Row as executive producer. Daz nor Snoop took the news lightly, while Dillinger and Kurupt began dissing each other on songs and interviews. Kurupt would explain his decision by saying Suge offered him a chance to do real business and that they all were wrong for leaving the man and label that gave them their start.
You know, he changed our lives. Suge always supported us. He gave a lot of people jobs and opportunities to win.
While Daz was having none of it, firing shots on his songs You Ain't and I Don't Give a F. Kurupt responded throughout his Originals group album like Eat a and F Daz. From 2002 to 2005, the two publicly went back and forth, while in the meantime, none of their solo careers were going as expected. Not because of the music, but because they no longer had the resources of Interscope, Priority, and Death Row at their disposal, and lost many fans that preferred having them together instead of solo. I don't know if artists understand what it does to the group when they split in fans' eyes, especially when they begin dissing each other and taking personal shots that can't be forgotten by squashing the beef and reuniting. It feels like everything they believed about you turned out to be false and they move on to other artists they can believe. Daz and Kurupt could have handled those differences behind the scenes without the back and forth that ruined the chance at keeping their fan base should they get back together. In 2005, they would, but by then, it was too late. Stunt number 3, Time Wasted. Back when their debut album released in '95, the Dogg Pound were viable artists on the same level as the faces of Death Row, Snoop, and Tupac by doing as well as it did, going double platinum and being nominated for a Grammy Award. It was a #1 album across the board, signifying they as a group should have at least had the chance to follow that up as soon as possible. But time moved fast as Tupac was shot and killed in '96, Dre had left prior to, Suge went to prison, and eventually both members of the Dogg Pound were in feud with each other. So from '95 to 2001, no Dogg Pound album was released, and a reunion came much too late May of that year, 6 years later, when most their fans were long past paying attention to them as a duo, likely moving on to other artists and even different music altogether, the two decided Suge Knight was in both their ears whispering things about each other, but none of it was worth discontinuing their friendship and business relationship they had built since the early 90s. After their 2001 release, it took another 4 years for an album in 2005, which by then the West Coast sound had taken a backseat in rap, and Dogg Pound fans were grown and past their gangsta rap image. They did go gold on their 2006 Cali is Active album that Snoop played a heavy role in putting together, but by then it just wasn't the same. They remained working together even in 2024, releasing an album, of all things, back on death row. All in all, the Dogg Pound was a dope West Coast group back in the 90s behind two West Coast hip-hop legends that were around during the golden era of the West Coast sound and hip-hop in general, but differences, money, and time took a lot of their potential away. It's good to see them back together, but for these reasons, their growth at an important time was stunted. Salute, much respect. It's your boy JC, Stunted Growth Music, and I'm out.